In this episode, we're speaking with Megan Shields, who is going to tell us all about how to grow a podcast with Facebook ads. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Todd Getz, your host of the Digital Trailblazer Podcast. And with me today is Megan Shields. Megan, welcome to the podcast. This is a topic I'm really interested in because this is something I've tried in the past. The thing is, I don't know if I succeeded or not. So I'm excited to speak to you. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know what you do and how you help people?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And that is definitely one of the biggest questions I always get asked on podcasts. So I'm excited we're going to dive into that. But yeah, so I'm the CEO of Chime House Media. We specialize in Facebook and Instagram ad strategies for thought leaders, visionaries, and people with podcasts. So we'll be diving into a lot of kind of how I do that. And so I'm excited to dive in.
So before the episode started, we were chatting, and one of the things I was telling you about was I tried to run ads to build this podcast and to promote it. And my biggest issue was I had no idea if they were working or not, because there's almost no way to track it. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's really the interesting thing around attribution, I guess, is like there's really no way to say like, oh, John clicked on this ad, then he went to the podcast, then he listened to episode 34 for 15 seconds left and then came back, those kinds of things. Like just podcast tracking isn't inherently fantastic, but what I tend to do is obviously take a look at the ads themselves. So there's certain KPIs that I look for to make sure that the ads are even resonating or that the audience is even interested in what we're putting in front of them from a podcast perspective. And then taking a look, of course, at overall back-end numbers, and then really doing a lot more of like attribution digging and putting everything together to really find trends and to make sure like things are trending upward. But there really is, as of this point, though, no real way to say like all of this specific traffic came from Facebook ads. It just doesn't exist. So it's a lot of just attribution, triangulating, and watching the trends, looking at the back end. And I can always see a large uptick, when ads get turned on, which always is a big green flag of like, okay, this is working. People are going, they're listening, the plays are increasing and that kind of stuff. But there just isn't a way on the back end to really like super dilute it down.
Yeah, I like the term triangulating because that is what it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, there's really no there's no fancy way to really do it. I mean, with data attribution in general, it is just a lot of that. It's a lot of looking at Google Analytics. It's a lot of looking at the back end of the websites, the funnels, the email lists, open rates, all the things to really get a good idea of how things are performing.
So now we talked about Facebook ads, and I assume this is also Instagram. For running Facebook ads, we're probably doing this on Instagram too. Is that really the best platform to do this, or have you checked out other platforms as well? Because you can run ads almost anywhere now: TikTok, YouTube, Google. And there's even native ads like on Buzzsprout and things too. And we tried that. And that was another one where I put some money into Buzzsprout ads, it's $400 or so. And I don't know if it worked or not. Even Buzzsprout can't tell me.
I know, isn't it crazy? So the one other place that I've heard that does well is Overcast FM. So a friend of mine, Adam Shively, I don't know if you've ever run across him in your podcasting space, but he's a podcast coach and helps people grow and monetize their podcasts like through their services and their business. Super cool guy. But he's actually how I even got into working with podcasters, because he was like, I want to see if you can create a strategy that works with Facebook and Instagram ads to help like podcasters grow and that kind of thing. So that's how everything sort of happened. And he, saw success with it, which is how it really set everything off. But he loves Overcast FM as another paid platform. So he'll do Facebook and Instagram, Overcast. We are looking at moving into YouTube, but we haven't done any podcast specific ads on YouTube as of yet. And I haven't really run any ads specifically for podcasting on like TikTok or other platforms or anything like that. So the other ones I've heard that Adam and his students who kind of overlap with me, so some of them are my clients too, is that Overcast has been a really good one to get a good bang for your buck. But I personally haven't like done those. But for my clients, a lot of their people, a lot of their ideal clients and customers who they're trying to reach are on Facebook and Instagram. So it has worked well to integrate into, what they've already got going on.
So let's dive into the strategy with Facebook and Instagram. Let's start first with what exactly the ad should be. Like, is it just a clip from the episode? Is it maybe a promo that you do, like kind of an ad for your podcast? Like, hey, listen to the Digital Trailblazer podcast because we talk about this, that, and the other thing. What is the actual creative that we would use for the ad?
Yeah, and this is one of the most common questions I get asked is like, what does it actually look like from an ad perspective? So I quickly want to mention that all of my clients that I work with, their podcast is part of their like content marketing strategy in their business. It's not a hobby podcast. So it might be look a little different for somebody that might be trying to grow a true crime podcast versus, okay, this is my podcast. I'll position myself as an authority so that I can sell people into like my group coachings and programs. So from that lens, I run like multiple campaigns and multiple ads that really kind of create an ecosystem of overall growth for the podcast. But from the podcast specific piece, I run like multiple creatives. So from a video, I love video ads. Video works well, but you don't necessarily have to do video in order to get good results, but it's always something worth testing. But I like to run like a top of funnel ad that's going to like a cold audience of an overall about the podcast. So not necessarily a specific episode because, there's a lot of depth on a podcast of what the episode, there's a lot of different episodes. And so I like to go really to the cold audience of like, this is what the podcast is about. I have like a script that I have my clients create and really have it just be kind of like a talking head video. Like it doesn't have to be overly produced or super pretty. Honestly, like the worse things look, the better they kind of do, because I think we're just so conditioned we know what an ad looks like. Like we know we've been on, here for so long, we just scroll past it. So anything that looks like native and organic tends to stop the scroll a little bit better because people are like, who is this? What are they talking about? Are we friends? Do I know them? And so really just having that talking head, like really hitting it with a hook of like either a problem that their audience has and like introduce the podcast and drive traffic that way. And then I also have like multiple other ads going that are just about different episodes. So like once people start engaging and we get people into this like warm audience, now we're showing more and more of the podcast. So more episodes that might be some of their top performers or ones that people love to listen to the most or they get the most feedback on, and start really integrating that into like the overall strategy so that they're seeing other episodes and stuff like that. I like to promote solo episodes. A lot of my clients, again, are coaches and experts in their field. And so I like to leverage them as the expert. And so I usually save the guest episodes for when people go onto the podcast. And so I'm primarily promoting the solo episodes, which sometimes could be, talking to the mic, that kind of thing. Usually some clips from the show and putting it in the actual ad and then sending people to the show from there.
Okay. So it sounds like that first ad is going out to a large cold audience. I assume it's interest-based targeting or lookalike audiences that you're sending that one to?
Yeah, but right now and ongoing, where Meta is moving towards with like their AI and their machine learning is like interest-based. Previously used to be in parameters, right? Like I want to target these people, stay inside of these parameters. Now Meta is like, thanks for the suggestion, but we're probably outside of that. So, the targeting, like while it's appealing and helpful and can still work, it's good to know like, okay, if I'm going into ads, like I need to make sure that my ad is speaking directly to the person that I want to click on it and engage with it, because it is going to be shown to more people that may or may not be your ideal person. And so you want your ad to speak directly to them so that way the right people can click and the wrong people can just keep on scrolling.
Yeah, that's right. with the suggestion that Facebook takes, it's still going to just serve your ad to whoever it wants that it thinks is going to give you the best result. And that's where, like you said, the ad creative, the script that you use, it's so much more important now because that's going to determine who responds to it, who's going to stop to scroll and listen. And that's what Facebook is really going to look at to determine who else it's going to serve its ad to. And so if you're not strong with your ad script, with your copy, with all those things, yeah, I mean, the targeting, you have less and less control over that. The thing that you do have control over, you need to be really good at.
Yeah, 100%. And there used to be the option to turn that off in my clients' accounts. And over the last 6 months, it's just slowly gone away and it's not even available. So some people who might be listening to this might still have the option. And if you want to, you can turn it off, but just know that it's not going to be the case forever. And so, yeah, the targeting is not the end all be all like it used to be even 2 years ago.
All right. So we've got that first level ad. Then you say you've got these other ads. So I assume these are retargeting ads after people have engaged or they've taken whatever action on that first one. Now you're retargeting them with specific episodes. So I assume it's just a clip or two of specific episodes. Is that right?
Yeah, generally it is a lot of clips of my clients talking in their podcast. So a lot of looks very much like this, right? The mic and then the words. So yeah, a lot of that, but it's part of a larger ecosystem because there are other top of funnel ads that are running. So I do a lot of email list building as well for my clients. And so because an email list not only is super valuable from a podcasting perspective if you want to go for like the sponsorship route, but like a lot of my clients fill and sell their group programs and things like that from their email list. But showing up and promoting things constantly to try to grow their email list can burn a lot of people out. And so we really automate that system with Facebook app. And so not only their email list is growing, but that's also a source of where we're using the podcast in there and driving traffic to the show in their weekly newsletters or however, often they correspond with their email list. So it's growing not only that top of funnel audience, the overall audience is not only growing from people engaging with our podcast ads, but also joining our email list and then other ads that I put out to like push their social content. And so once people join their email list, they're also going to start seeing all of these ads as well. And so they're kind of getting it from all angles because just because somebody joined your email list doesn't mean they're going to open your email list religiously open your email every single week. And so we're kind of building that ecosystem where they're seeing you all over the place, which, builds that authority, but then continues to drive that traffic too. So that's another part of it from like a podcast growth perspective is the email list.
And that's so important. I think a lot of people don't realize that about that omnipresence with your marketing. And we've brought this up a few times on our podcast. Google did this study about what it takes to actually turn somebody from a cold audience to like a paying client or paying customer. And the number they came up with, what was it? 4, 7, 11 or 11, 7, but it was those three numbers. I forget which order it was, but it was 11 touch points over 4 platforms and 7 hours of content or something like that. That's what it takes on average to turn somebody from cold audience to paying client. And so if you think about, okay, you got podcast, you've got Facebook platform or the ads platform, you got your email list, that's 3 of them right there. Then if you add a sales call to that or something or a webinar, that's your 4. So combining all these 3 things or 4 things, I think is really important just with any type of marketing that you're doing.
Yeah, I think visibility is one of those things that like people like undervalue and don't pay too much attention to, but it's like can be so powerful from like a compound perspective. Cause like for some reason, when it comes to us, like creating customer journeys for our business, like we all of a sudden think that people don't act the same way that we act. Like when we're interacting with somebody else's business, we're like, no, they're going to come right into my funnel and they're going to buy from me. It's like, no, they're probably going to click your ad and then their kid is going to spill something on the floor. Their dog is going to bark. They're going to forget what they were doing. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then maybe come back or maybe not. And that's why you have to have retargeting. But like, you got to stay in front of people because people are busy. And when you think about Facebook and Instagram specifically, like it's a passive platform. Like people aren't there like they're looking on YouTube or looking on Google because they have, a water leak and they need somebody to come fix it right now. Like they're on the toilet, they're at Starbucks, they're, scrolling in line at the DMV. Like they're not necessarily looking to have a problem solved right now. And so taking that into consideration when creating a strategy will only help you because then it'll give you that omnipresence, but also, like you said, like different ways for people to engage. Like not everybody loves audio, not everybody loves reading blogs. So if you have the different content types, then you can access a larger portion of that audience as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because when they think visibility, they think if I just get in front of more people, they think just getting in front of more people one time is going to get them what they want, and that they can just hit it out of the park that one time. That's what's going to get the customer, and it's not really. It's you can do it with a much smaller audience, but you got to get in front of them over and over and over again.
And that's the thing with the organic. A lot of my clients come to me because they're specifically like, I'm creating a lot of good stuff. Like I have good things, but like people aren't seeing it. So like even people that are following you, like I was just listening to Amy Porterfield's most recent podcast episode. Her and Jenna Kutcher are talking about kind of like the different things that are happening in the online space, but they're like, our warm audience isn't seeing a lot of our stuff. So they're leveraging ads now to get in front of their warm audience more, which was good for me to hear. Cause I'm like, cool, I've been doing that for years. So like, thank you. But like, just cause somebody follows you doesn't mean they're seeing your stuff. I mean, the Instagram algorithm is changing like every freaking day. It's insane. And so that's again, part of the ecosystem I create is not only retargeting the people that are like engaging with the ads for the first time, but like people who probably already want to see your stuff that are on your email list, people that are follow you, but they're just not seeing it because whatever algorithm crap is happening at that time.
Yeah, well, and I assume that's where the retargeting comes in because I know that with Amy Porterfield, I remember that, I won't see her ads for a long time and I'll be like, oh yeah, Amy Porterfield, I wonder what she's up to. I wonder what she's doing in her podcast. And I'll click on something and suddenly I see her ads all over the place again. And it's like, oh, I'm being retargeted.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, it works.
So with your retargeting or with these ads that you're creating, what is the call to action? So on the first one, I assume it's, hey, check out my podcast. That link that goes to your podcast, are you sending that to your website? Are you sending that directly to your Apple podcast? Are you sending it to Spotify? Like where specifically are you sending that?
Yeah, great question. So I've tested a couple different things because like me as like the data-driven person that I am, it's like I want to eat up all the data that I can. So I was like, I want to send them to the website. And then from the website, they can go to the show. And then what I found is that just friction is not your friend. If you think about how people are really engaging with content, like they're not going to your website to listen to a podcast. They're going to their podcast player. They're going to Apple or they're going to Spotify. And so while we saw like good clicks to the podcast or to the website, it wasn't really translating into that strong of growth on the back end of the show. And so I actually send people directly to the Apple Podcast link or Spotify. So you can actually segment your audiences inside of Meta for Apple devices and Android devices. So Android devices, I'll send over to the Spotify link. Apple devices, I'll send to the Apple link. And I have found that that just works much better. And the cool thing that I like specifically, because most of my clients, like 80% of their listenership is on Apple. So like I go harder on the Apple stuff. But I also like that like when somebody clicks and they go into Apple, like it adds it into their queue. And then when they go back in to listen, like your little cover art is at the top, So you get kind of like additional marketing that Apple does for us that we don't pay for. It's just part of how the player functions. And so I think that also helps a little bit too. But yeah, I send them directly to the episode.
And then the campaign objective, because I've toyed around with this too. Should it be link clicks? Should it be engagement? I mean, if you're going directly to Apple, I guess it wouldn't be conversions. But if you're, I suppose if it was on your own website, it could be that or landing page views, right? What's the ad objective that you're using?
Yeah, so I'm running multiple campaigns, but one of the main one for the podcast is traffic for link clicks because we can't do conversions. So we can't track the destination. We can't even do landing page views because again, you can't pixel Apple Podcasts. So I'm just using traffic for that one.
And then all those retargeting ads, are you doing the same thing? Is it just, hey, check out the full episode and here's the link and it goes to Apple Podcasts?
Yeah, essentially using different clips or maybe like a carousel of like different episodes and things like that. But yeah, showing them the most popular topics and then sending them to the episodes.
Now, I know what we do with our podcast is we actually embed the Apple player on our website. Does that still count? Like if people click on that and they listen to it from there, does that still count? Or would you still rather send people directly to Apple?
I don't know, honestly. I'm techie, but I'm not exactly sure how every single backend feature of like Apple works. I would think that if it is the Apple player, that it would register as an increase in plays and things like that on Apple on the back end. But I so personally like to send people directly to Apple in general because they're not most of the time going to reload a website every time that they want to listen to a specific show. You know what I mean? They want to go to where everything is queued up.
Yeah, makes sense. I know that when I load our podcast on a mobile device, that player doesn't always show up the best. It probably loads slower than Apple itself anyways. So
On the website?
yeah, on my website.
Probably. Yeah, especially if it's like embedded and there
Yeah.
are, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, on your email list, when you're promoting an episode, like in a newsletter or something, is that the same thing? Are you still sending people directly to Apple, or is it okay to send them to your website then?
Yeah, so all my clients are different. So I do want to make like a little segue that like I'm not an email marketing expert. So like while I look at that stuff, my clients have their own sort of strategies within their own email marketing. But again, it's like listen on Apple, listen on Spotify. Like they have each one of their links in the actual email, and then people can choose to click and listen to wherever they want to listen to from, I should say.
Now, as far as ad budget, because I know whenever we talk about ads, people are always afraid of losing money or wasting money, and they think it's expensive. Well, ads are only expensive when they don't work, right? When they work, they should be making money. But as far as like an ad budget, how much are you spending on a daily basis to run an ad campaign like this?
Yeah. So if I'm doing like my overall strategy, I'm spending probably anywhere from like $30 to $50 a day. But if you want to just go like straight podcasts, like you could do like $10 a day on that.
Oh, really? Okay. And how would you split that up between the initial ad going to the cold audience versus the retargeting ad?
I would say like 80-20.
Okay.
Well, maybe 70-30 now, because some of the retargeting ones that I was running before at like $1 to $2 a day, there's now a minimum of $3 a day as of yesterday. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I was like, look at that update. Neat.
Yeah. So that's very affordable. Do any retargeting on top of that? Like, for example, because I know what I would probably do is I'd take that audience that you had retargeted the first time, anybody who engaged there, I'd probably retarget them again with like webinars and other things that I was promoting. Do you do that too? Or is there another strategy beyond this that people can think about?
Yeah. So like I have my signature strategy, which like I've coined like the trifecta strategy. And that's kind of like the foundation, I guess, of like how I approach the ads for my clients. But then it gets more personalized depending on like what they have going on in their business. So like if they are running a webinar, if they are in a launch, if they are whatever they might be selling, then that's where it gets a little bit more personalized depending on what they're trying to do. So in that case, yes, I would leverage the audience we've built for things like that.
Yeah, this whole strategy, I really like it because here's the thing. We've had other guests on the podcast that have done very similar things, but not with a podcast. They've done it with Instagram, they've done it with an e-commerce store, but they've got a very similar strategy where they've got something that is building the audience on the front end, and then they're retargeting once. And then the people that engage with the retargeting ad, they retarget again, and they're getting super cheap leads, and their ROI is just insane. Like it's the highest ROI I've heard of any ad campaign that's going on right now. And I think that what you kind of described here is, it sounds very similar, but you're doing it with a podcast, which is what I love, because I mean, this podcast for us has been just an amazing boost to our business. The content, we actually enjoy making the content. When we were doing YouTube, I would never dance around like a fool on TikTok. I don't want to have to create that content, so I'm not going to. But these podcast episodes, I just love doing them, and I love the networking that we're able to do with our guests. So for me, being able to take this and be able to use it in an ad strategy that's actually going to get people to register for a webinar or watch a VSL or book a call with us. To me, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
And that's where a lot of our clients are like, they want that because they're like, I'm not going to go on TikTok and dance around. And like, I don't want to be creating content for nobody to see it. And so like, what can I do? And it's like, well, here's kind of how this works. And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And that, it works. Podcasts are super powerful tools. And I find that like, people have like their marketing strategy over here, and then they have like their podcast. It's like over here, and they're working really hard on it, but it's like not part of the overall like ecosystem. And it's such great content. So it's like, let's use it. Audio builds trust super fast.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's so easy to cut that up into little things for reels and shorts and whatever. I don't even know what that stories or something.
It's like most people are paying editors anyway. So like,
yeah, well, and there's AI apps that you upload your episode, it automatically cuts it up into these little 30-second and 60-second clips. It does all the captions. It'll do all this stuff for you. And you just pick out the ones that you like, and we've got a VA that will go ahead and repurpose that for us. I don't even know the stuff that goes out from our podcast and these other platforms. It just does. We just do this part. Like I said, this is the most enjoyable content that we've ever created. That doesn't seem like a chore to us. So the fact that we can leverage ads to be able to actually lead to paying clients later on, to me, that's just a huge bonus too. If people want to know more about this strategy, and if they've got a podcast, or maybe they've even got other content channels that they might want to try this with, because I'm sure this would probably work with YouTube and other things as well. How can they get a hold of you? How can they find you online?
Well, of course, our website, which is chimehousemedia.com, but I love to hang out on Instagram. So same handle at chimehousemedia. I love a voice note. Don't be shy. And I'm also on Facebook at the same handle as well. So you can find me all there. And if you go to the website, you can book a call with me directly there as well.
Awesome. Well, Megan, thank you so much. This would have been one of my favorite episodes, I think. There's so much you dove into, and I'm definitely going to be trying this out on my own. And I may be reaching out to you to get some help as well. I guess I'm really excited about this. I'm definitely going to give it a shot. So, Megan, thank you so much for being on the episode. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.